In an unexpected turn of events, my parents decided to take my hard-earned savings and relocate to another state to start a new business. This betrayal was hard to digest, but I took action by hiring a lawyer, and I engaged the police to help them face the consequences of their actions. The theft wasn't just a financial hit, it had been a significant emotional blow that compounded the challenges I was already facing after my divorce. After over a decade together, my marriage crumbled into pieces, leaving me feeling despondent and vulnerable. My ex-wife and I had a daughter named Emma, who remained with her mother for the sake of stability. At the age of 37, I found myself moving back in with my parents, a situation that struck a hammer blow to my pride. Nevertheless, they welcomed me back with familiarity and warmth, allowing me to regroup and seek my next steps. Their house felt almost nostalgic, encapsulating the sense of my childhood, coffee brewing in the mornings, the pleasing aroma of lavender from my mom's cleaning products, and the faint lingering trace of my dad's cologne. It was a comforting environment, a refuge while I plotted my path forward. I was heavily focused on my work, dedicating each dollar I earned for Emma's future. Having made a solemn promise to myself, I resolved to save enough money to buy her an apartment when she turned 18. For years, I saved diligently, and after my divorce, those savings assumed greater importance. By the time I returned to my parents' home, I had managed to save $35,000, carefully stashing it away in cash because I didn't trust myself to resist the temptation of using it prematurely. My parents were more than willing to support me. One day, my father suggested that I could keep my money in their heavy-duty safe, which was bolted to the floor of their bedroom closet. Months passed, and I had to embark on a 2-day business trip. It was the first time I had traveled since moving in with my parents, and I felt a lingering unease about leaving Emma and my savings behind. Jokingly, I asked my father, "You're not planning to run off with my money while I'm gone, are you?" He laughed, reassuring me with a pat on the back. Upon my return, everything seemed fine at first. The house was quiet, yet this was typical as my parents often ran errands in the mornings. However, when I entered the living room, something felt amiss. The couch was gone, along with end tables, the television, and most of the photographs from the walls. Freezing in disbelief, I initially wondered if we had been robbed. In a panic, I rushed through the house, checking every room. The guest bedroom, where I had been staying, remained untouched, but my parents' bedroom appeared almost completely emptied. Panic set in when I realized the safe was missing. Heart racing, I dashed to the kitchen, half expecting chaos, but there was none. On the counter lay a folded letter addressed to me. Upon opening it, my stomach dropped. "Douglas, we're sorry, but we need a fresh start. You gave us a chance, and we took it. Please understand. Mom and Dad." My mind struggled to comprehend the meaning behind the words. My own parents had vanished with my savings, the same people who had raised me and offered me shelter when I was at my lowest. Disbelief washed over me, and my first instinct was denial. There must be another explanation. Perhaps they were in peril, forced to flee for their lives. Surely they wouldn't just grab the money and disappear. Yet, the evidence was undeniable. Their house felt deliberately stripped bare, nothing had been left to chance. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the vacant space where the safe once stood, and all I felt was a tempest of anger, disbelief, and panic. The funds weren't just for me, I had saved for Emma's future. I frantically attempted to contact my parents, but calls went to voicemail, and soon, all I got was silence. A neighbor confirmed she saw them loading their car the previous day, assuming they were off on a trip. That day, I rummaged through their house, searching for answers. I found nothing but an old map of Nebraska, an indication that perhaps their destination was far from over. The next morning, I hesitantly sought legal counsel. I was uncertain about the legality of my case. Feeling exasperated but resolute, I reported the crime to the police. They took my concerns seriously, and shortly thereafter, my parents were officially labeled as fugitives. I spent the night at my ex-wife's home, and to my surprise, she offered her support without judgment. Days turned into an emotional roller coaster, paperwork, interviews, and recounting my parents' habits in detail. Just when I thought I would never hear from them again, I received an unexpected phone call from Detective Harris. He informed me that they had tracked my parents to a storage unit in Kansas, having rented it shortly before their disappearance. My heart raced as I wondered what lay inside. Arriving at the storage facility, I found Detective Harris waiting with a search warrant. The manager led us to the unit, and the moment we opened it, a shocking discovery awaited us. When the safe finally clicked open, we were greeted with the sight of my money, $35,000 in neatly stacked bundles. But the surprise didn't end there. Tucked away with the cash were several passports bearing different names, a burner phone, and a notebook full of detailed lists and coded entries. The realization that my parents weren't just ordinary criminals dawned on me. They were involved in something sinister. Detective Harris grimly noted they were not running only from me, they were evading serious threats as well. The days that followed unfolded like a thriller. The investigation revealed that my parents had been laundering money for a criminal network. The stolen funds were not a petty theft, they were funds for their escape from a world of danger they had fallen into. Eventually, the police closed in on my parents, and arrests were made in a small Nebraska town, where they had been operating an illegal business. In the courtroom, filled with a mixture of anger and heartbreak, I recounted how my trust had been shattered. The trial concluded with their conviction, resulting in prison sentences for both of them. About a week later, I received a letter from my mother. It was an emotional read, filled with regret. She expressed sorrow for our relationship, confessing that they believed they were escaping danger not just for themselves but for me and Emma. In the aftermath of their sentencing, I focused on rebuilding my life. Using the assets recovered from their wrongdoings, I fulfilled my promise to buy Emma her own apartment, which became a symbol of hope for the future we would build together. Claire and I began spending quality time as well, which eventually rekindled our relationship, and we remarried a year later. Life continued in a way that I once thought was impossible. Emma thrived, Claire and I found our footing, and I realized that despite the betrayal from those I once trusted, I was now surrounded by a family that supported and loved me unconditionally. The lessons drawn from betrayal became stepping stones for a new chapter in life, one anchored in family, resilience, and integrity. Though my parents remained distant figures in a prison, the anger that had festered within me slowly faded into an acceptance of what had transpired. I had created new bonds, built a loving family, and finally let go of the ghosts of the past. Ultimately, the journey of healing after this betrayal shed light on the importance of genuine relationships, those who choose to stand by you through life's unpredictabilities. Lessons learned in the most painful ways now serve as beacons guiding me forward, leaving the turmoil behind as I solidify a future rooted deeply in love and understanding.